I would like to invite now Speedy Zweibeck to come up and introduce our scholar in resident.
A proper introduction of our scholar in residence would take longer than the time that we've allotted him to speak. So let me be quite brief. Rabbi Eric Yoffie is the Emeritus President of the Union for Reform Judaism. That means he represents 15 million, he represented and still represents 15 million Jews in North America. He pioneered interfaith relationships, launching programs with Jews, Christians, and Muslims. He also had an abiding interest in social justice. Tri-faith social justice. I don't know whether he was reading our emails or we were reading his, but it seems to me that it's a perfect fit for the dedication of our new building. Oh, there's an added bonus. Accompanying Rabbi Yoffie is his lovely wife, Amy. She's not chopped liver either. She has expertise in market research, training manuals, and product branding. The two of them have 2 children, Adina and Adam. God only knows what they'll come up with. But it is my delight and pleasure to welcome to the Bima Rabbi Eric Yoffie.
Whenever someone heaps excessive praise on me or anyone else, I think of the story of Frank Lloyd Wright testifying as an expert witness at a trial in Chicago. The judge said, "Give your name and occupation." The response, "I am Frank Lloyd Wright, the greatest architect in the world." The judge is taken aback. He asks, "What kind of a thing is that to say? Where's your humility?" Wright responds, "But Your Honor, I'm under oath." But you know, there's always something to bring you down to earth. I was speaking not long ago at a community meeting in Kansas City. There were problems with the mic. Someone in the back yelled, "Could you speak louder? I can't hear you back here." A lady in the front row yelled, "I can hear him just fine. I'll change seats with you." That's the same night I walked out behind 2 people who didn't know that I was there. One said, "Well, that rabbi could have been worse." And the other one said, "Sure, if he had more time." One more story. It's my 3rd or 4th time speaking in Omaha. The first time was in 1981, more than 30 years ago. A reminder that I'm maybe getting on a little bit. I recently attended a meeting in New York City, a conference, and when I arrived and looked at the program, I saw a name that was vaguely familiar. I remembered this girl in my class at Brandeis, a very pretty girl that all the guys sort of admired from afar, and I wondered, could this be the same person? So I went to the session where she was a panelist, but when I saw her completely gray hair and the deeply lined face, I thought, she's way too old to have been my classmate. Nonetheless, when I saw her at the reception and after the conference, I walked up to her and asked, "Did you happen to attend Brandeis University?" "Yes, I did," she said. And so I asked, "When did you graduate?" She said, 1969. "Why do you ask?" I said, "You were in my class." "Really?" she asked, looking at me very closely. "What did you teach?" Let's get to work. I am honored to be with you on this Shabbat and to be part of the dedication of Temple Israel's new building. I was really, before the service, I was really kind of overcome. I'd heard so much, and I really haven't seen the whole facility. But this sanctuary, somehow simultaneously a place of beauty and of majesty and also simplicity, a place filled with awe and a kind of electric feeling once you're in here praying. This is really a great and historic moment in the history of American Judaism. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, spread over us the shelter of your peace. This is our theme this evening. These words are a prayer and a petition to God, but they are something else as well. They are a description of the work in which Temple Israel has been engaged for more than 140 years, spreading a shelter of peace and caring and support over the members of this synagogue and over the community in which it resides. It was interesting to me to read the history of Temple Israel, which I did. The temple was founded by 11 people in 1871, the first synagogue in Nebraska, and it had a lot of problems in its first few decades. It was desperately short of members and short of money. It was unable to find a rabbi, to keep a rabbi, to pay a rabbi. It was unable to run a successful religious school. In short, its main problem was, could this tiny congregation survive? Located in the American heartland, far from the major centers of Jewish life, could it build a viable Jewish community? And let's compare that and then with what has been your major problem in the last few years. How could you expand your facility fast enough to accommodate the needs of your 750 or 800 membership units? How could you find the room for Torah study and worship and communal celebration that you do here day in and day out? And you solved that problem, of course, by constructing with love and devotion this Sukkot Shalom, this extraordinary facility that we dedicate tonight. There was nothing easy about creating it, but there was never a second of doubt that it would come into being, extending the blessings of this great synagogue to your members and all who surround you. Now, I know a little bit about Temple Israel. I want to suggest, as I see it, there are three factors that explain what it has become, what you have become as we celebrate on this Shabbat. The first, as we have heard and as you know, is that this is a place committed to social justice and to the broader community, because Temple Israel knows that selfish congregations, like selfish people, wither and die. Look around. It sometimes seems that America has splintered into a host of ethnic and religious enclaves, each exalting its own identity while demonizing others. In our cities and on campus, racial and ethnic isolation intensifies, and builders of bridges are increasingly displaced by those who construct barricades and bunkers. And in reacting to this, even some American Jews have been infected by the separatist virus. We are surrounded by enemies, they say, so let's dig in our own garden. Let's go it alone. No one else will fend for us. But Temple Israel has always been a champion of the opposite view, that separatism is bad for the Jews, and that Jewish tradition imposes upon us a duty to care for all humankind. It has always reminded us that if we take care only of our own, we forget the meaning of this country. It has always understood that Jewish tradition calls on us to be fixers, healers, helpers, and menders. You've always known that that is our mission and that must be our way, because if it is not, we forsake our God, betray our past, and subvert our future. And Temple Israel has translated its ideals into practice, and not with symbolism and press releases, but with hands-on programs in Black Jewish relations and LGBT rights, with mitzvah days, and of course, with interreligious dialogue, and the Tri-Faith Initiative, where you have been pioneers and groundbreakers, reaching out and joining together with Muslims and Christians alike. Now, none of this means, of course, that we stop being who we are. We Jews need our own values and rituals and traditions. Without walls and categories to separate us, we have no identity or integrity. We are simply a mass of jelly and incoherence. But what you understand is that our walls should never be so high that we forget the people and the problems that exist on the other side. Jews need walls just as much as everybody else, but we never ignore or, God forbid, demonize those on the outside. We know that we must constantly pull ourselves up to look over the wall and extend our hand, and in so doing give expression to our common humanity. And that is what Temple Israel has done here, with this building, in this neighborhood, rewriting the history of American religious life in the process. And the second thing that has brought us this wonderful shelter of peace is the sense of common purpose and community that you have created here. I don't know exactly how you've done it. Some congregations never really do it. But for the members of Temple Israel, this congregation is home. And you have a continuity of membership that is the envy of Reformed synagogues everywhere. Jews come to be part of this temple and they stay. Year after year, generation after generation. It's interesting that you have completed this building and are flourishing at a time when some people are saying that synagogues are not as important as they once were. We live in an era of electronic media. You don't even have to walk out the door to shop anymore. And we all know people who live like that. They spend their leisure time alone in front of a computer screen or in front of a television that presents us with show after show of really, really stupid reality TV. So why is this congregation thriving, and why did you build this building? Because you know that this is precisely the time when the synagogue is more important, not less important, because the blessings of technology are many. But there's only so much that they can add to the meaning of our lives. Because Temple Israel is a congregation that understands the fundamental premise of synagogue life, that the synagogue is the one place in the Jewish community that always cares about the individual. It's the one place where everyone is unique and valued and a bearer of God's image, no matter who you are or how much money you have. It is devoted to justice, but just as important, attends to the pain of its members, celebrates their successes, helps them to raise their children. This building is important, but not because it's a building, even an extraordinarily beautiful building. Buildings are brick and mortar and nothing more. It is important because for the members of Temple Israel, it is their community, and more than that, as I said before, it is their home. And the third and final factor that has made this state possible is the extraordinary caliber, the leadership that you've been fortunate enough to have. And that means, first of all, rabbinic leadership. David Weiss, Arthur Lelyveld, Lou Silberman, Sidney Brooks. What a joy to have Jane Brooks with us on the Shabbat. What a joy. Every one of those rabbis that I mentioned was not only a distinguished leader of this congregation, but an outstanding leader of Reform Judaism. And Aryeh Azriel continues this tradition in every way. He is a rabbi who speaks with candor, honesty, and openness. He is a teacher of Torah and a man of vision who knows that a synagogue must not bend to every wind that blows. He's a passionate champion of justice and one of the great interfaith leaders of our time. And he's an outspoken advocate for Israel and for the cause of religious freedom in the Jewish state. For a quarter of a century, Rabbi Azriel has pushed you, challenged you, and caused you some discomfort. And that's what rabbis are supposed to do. But you know what makes him a truly great rabbi? It's that in addition to excelling as activist and leader, he knows how to be pastor and friend. He knows how to share pain and strength. If you're sick or in crisis, he is there. He knows how to reach out to his congregants one-on-one, heart-to-heart, mind-to-mind. He's a rabbi of moral fervor, but also a rofei nefashot, a healer of souls. And he's the very heart of this congregation. And this, too. He was never alone in leading Temple Israel and expanding its vision and in lovingly making this structure a reality. He was joined by Rabbi Brown and Cantor Sherman and many others, educators and staff, who followed his lead as messengers of Torah, and by volunteer leaders as well, many of them here tonight. I won't mention names, there are too many to mention. But what volunteer leaders they are, not passive vessels, but partners with their clergy in the holy tasks of worship and study, and in the practical tasks of raising dollars and making this congregation run. Building this synagogue took a leap of faith, but Temple Israel has long had volunteers of spiritual daring who are prepared to take some risks and to sing Jewish notes that may have seemed beyond their range. And thank God that they did. Putting their bodies and souls in motion, they did what their temple needed and what their community required. So where does Temple Israel go from here? Hard to say. 142 years old, an old congregation by American standards. And old congregations can get set in their ways. But I, for one, am not worried. I'm reminded of Martin Buber's statement that the way to remain young is to continue to change and grow. And it seems to me that the leaders of Temple Israel, Torah in hand, have always been prepared to think in new ways and to devote themselves to the collective service of God. And so you will do in the years ahead what you've done throughout your history. You will expand this temple's reach, attract the younger generation, fill these rooms with vibrant Jewish life, and develop this neighborhood as a national showplace for understanding and cooperation among the great faith traditions. After all, for 142 years, what has Temple Israel been? A sacred space, a fragment of holiness, a spiritual home, a place where Jews delight in study of text and the life of the mind, a place where worship matters, family matters, justice matters, community matters, a place with the best rabbis and leaders that American Judaism has to offer. The words that adorn this building, it seems to me, have been chosen with great care. Grant, O God, that we lie down in peace and raise us up, our guardian, to life renewed. You've chosen these words because you know, as Jews have always known, that as long as the journey continues, God is there and God waits for our hopes and aspirations, for our songs, our prayers, and our hearts. And inspired by these words, you know as well that for Temple Israel, the best is yet to come. Mazel tov to you at this historic moment of rededication and renewal. Shabbat shalom.